escape. Roger ran in terror through the streets and alleys till he came to the marketplace, where he ran up and down between the stalls, looking this way and that and gulping and shaking with sobs. His face was wet and his nose was running and he looked a thorough mess. Finally, he got down on all fours and crawled under the cheese stall and made for the drain pipe in the corner. But that was a bad mistake. He wasn't quite as small as he thought he was, and before he knew what was happening, he knocked away one of the trusses holding up the stall. At once the whole top fell down. Cheeses rolled and slid and flopped and bounced in all directions. Somehow, every dog in the area suddenly learnt that there was free cheese in the marketplace, and within seconds a yapping, barking mob was making for overturned stalls. Roger was terrified of dogs, and when he saw them coming, he screamed and covered in the corner where it was easy to catch him. And 5 minutes later, Roger was in the police station again. "Who's that?" said the sergeant, as the constable came back to report his arrest. "Little boy in a painter's uniform." "Let me look at him." Roger was crouching in the corner when the sergeant opened the cell door, and as soon as he saw daylight, he tried to dart out, but the sergeant grabbed him. "Ah, I thought it was you," he said. "Born troublemaker, you are. As soon as I heard the words market and cheese, I remembered you, just like that. Good thing I made a record of your address. See how your old auntie and uncle feel about coming down here to bail you out." When Bob arrived, he wasn't pleased at all. "Well, Sergeant," he said, across the counter, "what's the boy done? Last thing I knew he was at school." "Ah," said the sergeant triumphantly. "Well, he ain't any more, and he's in real trouble, your lad. Mayhem and criminal damage. I shouldn't wonder if it amounted to riot. Bring him, constable." Riot? How can one little boy have a riot all on his own? The constable came out with Roger firmly in his grip. As soon as the boy saw Bob, he smiled up with happy relief. "Oh, I was worried," he said. "It was all because I started to worry, and I wouldn't have got worried if the head hadn't hit me." "He hit you?" said Bob. "Why?" "I don't know. It's mysterious," said Roger. "She just called him a head, and he wasn't only a head. I thought he was just a head. On a table, maybe. Or he might have had a little stand, and I wanted to see it work, but he had arms and legs and everything, and I didn't know what he was going to do. He made me bend over, and I thought he was going to play leapfrog like I seen him in the playground, only suddenly whoosh! He hit my tail with a blooming stick. Oh, that hurt awful. I wish he was a head with no arms and legs. Then he wouldn't be able to hurt boys like that. So I ran away, and I got in a muddle with the cheese. Then they caught me and put me in the room in there. Can we go now?" "Sergeant, this ain't a desperate criminal," said Bob. "This is a little boy who don't know what. You ain't going to use the whole majesty of law to punish a little boy for a little bit of mischief, are you?" "What about the damage to my stall?" demanded the cheesemonger, who had just arrived. "And all my cheeses. Who's going to pay for them?" Bob's heart sank. "I suppose I'll have to pay for the damage," he said. "Make up the account and send it to me. I'm not a rich man to mind." "Sergeant," said the constable, "ain't this the boy who had some tale about being a rat?" "Yes," said Roger eagerly. "I had a tale all right. It was good fun." "Be quiet," said the sergeant sternly. "Rats don't belong in decent society. They ought to be exterminated." Roger didn't know what exterminated meant, of course, but he didn't like the sound of it. He clung tight to Bob and said nothing. They agreed that Bob would pay for the cheese and that Roger would behave himself in future. A curious and interesting case. It was a fine Sunday morning, and the philosopher royal was taking a nap. Normally at this time of the day, the king liked to go and have a chat with the philosopher royal over a cup of coffee and a biscuit, discussing things like why toast always fell on the buttered side, or whether flies loop-the-loop before landing on the ceiling. But the royal family away at Hotel Splendifico, while the palace was being decorated ready for the royal wedding, there was a little call for philosophy. The servant who woke the philosopher royal up for lunch was a cousin of the constable who'd arrested Roger, and he had told him all about it, knowing the old man's curious turn of mind. Said he was a rat? Said he used to be a rat, sir. He was ever so sure about it. My cousin said it gave him a creepy feeling all up his spine. He don't like rats. The philosopher royal made a note of the policeman's name, and after lunch he went to the police station to ask about the case. The sergeant was very impressed to see his card. Now I see the word philosopher in connection with the word royal, he said. I wonder whether I'm right in guessing that you might meet the prince's fiancée. Or you might have met her already. What's she like? Is she as pretty as she looks in her pictures? The philosopher royal told him. But this boy who said he was a rat, he went on. Have you got his address? Not was, said the sergeant. He said he used to be, but he wasn't any more. Oh yes, it's all in the file. The sergeant read out Bob's and Joan's address. But you be warned by me, he said. That boy's a bad influence, rat or no rat. He'll come to a bad end. I am most grateful, said the philosopher royal. Good day to you. In the cobbler's shop, Bob was waxing some thread. Morning, sir, he said. What can I do for you? You are Mr. Bob Jones, guardian of a boy called Roger. Bob looked alarmed, then he looked careful. What's he done now? He said. I'd like to see him. Is he at home? He's in the laundry room helping my wife. You got to keep an eye on him, else he eats the soap. But who might you be, sir? My interest is purely philosophical. May I see the boy? Well, I don't see why not. Step this way, sir. Bob led the philosopher royal into the laundry room, which was full of warm, steamy air. Joan was stirring some sheets in hot water with a big stick, and Roger was feeding a pillowcase into the mangle and squeezing the water out, tasting it from time to time. Mrs. Jones, said the philosopher royal. And Roger? Joan dried her hands and gathered Roger close to her. He peered up at the philosopher royal with his bright black eyes wide. Did you want some washing done, sir? Said Joan. No. My washing is done by the palace laundry maids. I was hoping for a brief talk with you, with the young, Roger. He's not in trouble, is he, sir? She asked anxiously. No, said the philosopher royal. This is a purely philosophical investigation. Well, I suppose you could talk in the parlour if you liked, he said, and led them through a little room that smelled of furniture polish. I leave you to get on with it, she said, because I've got a lot of washing to get through, and now, Roger, you be a good boy and answer the gentleman politely. No nibbling. When Joan had left, the philosopher royal sat down and looked at Roger, a little boy of 8 or 9, perhaps dressed in a uniform. Now, Roger, he began, why are you wearing a painter's boy's uniform? I don't know. I expect I forgot, but I'm not sure. If I could remember whether I'd forgotten, I'd know if I had, but I probably forgot without remembering it. The philosopher royal was used to problems of epistemology, so he made sense of that with no trouble at all. I see, he said. Now, would you let me examine you properly? It won't hurt, he added. I expect so, said Roger. The philosopher royal was thinking of the book he'd write about this. What a discovery! There'd been children brought up by wolves before, but no one had ever studied a child brought up by rats. It would make him famous. Rubbing his hands together, the philosopher royal left Roger chewing on one of the tassels of the lampshade and went to speak to Bob. You want to take him away, said Bob, frowning. Just to take some tests, weigh him, measure him, that sort of thing, to see how a human child is affected by being among rats. It's a question of exceptional philosophical importance. But when he was among the rats, he wasn't a human child, said Bob. He's a human child now. Well, of course he really wasn't a rat, said Philosopher Royal, thinking how simple these people were. Said Bob. You bring him back here this evening, and don't you hurt him. I don't know what legal responsibility we got, but he come to us and knocked, and that's enough for me. And he's a lovely little fella for all his chewing. You look after him proper, no question about that, said the Philosopher Royal. Roger had finished off all the tassels except one. Bob sighed and snapped off the last one and dropped it into the little boy's hand. I don't know how you're going to digest some of this, I really don't, he said. No, said Roger, it's a mystery to me. Now you go along with this gentleman and do as he says, all right, and he'll bring you back in time for supper. Roger bowed goodbye to Bob and went out happily, the Philosopher Royal.